There is a place where the ocean collides with ancient cliffs so violently that the wind itself seems to sing. A place where castles rise from mist-covered hills, where green valleys stretch endlessly beneath soft gray skies, and where legends feel closer to reality than history. That place is Ireland. Often called the Emerald Isle, Ireland is more than a destination. It is an experience that feels almost mythical. Every road seems to lead to a hidden wonder. Every coastline tells a story that is older than the cities of the modern world. And tonight, we are going to journey through some of the most breathtaking wonders this island has to offer. Places where nature, history, and mystery meet. Most travel videos rush through locations. They show you a list of places, a few pretty shots, then they move on. But Moonlight Whisper is not about rushing. It is about slowing down, about seeing the quiet beauty that most people overlook, about discovering places that leave a lasting imprint on the mind long after the journey ends. And Ireland is one of the few places on Earth where that kind of wonder still feels alive. This video is not about ranking places or declaring one destination better than another. Beauty is subjective, and Ireland has far more wonders than any single video could capture. Instead, think of this journey as an invitation, an introduction to some of the most magical landscapes this island offers. Places that have captured the imagination of travelers for generations. In the next few minutes, we will explore towering sea cliffs that rise dramatically above the Atlantic Ocean, giant rock formations shaped by both nature and legend, ancient castles surrounded by wild landscapes, quiet valleys where time seems to slow down, and mysterious places where mythology and history intertwine. These are not just tourist destinations, they are experiences, and each one reveals a different side of Ireland's soul. Number 1. The cliffs that touch the sky. Cliffs of Moher. On the western edge of Ireland, there is a place where the land simply stops and the ocean begins. The famous Cliffs of Moher stand there, rising out of the earth like a long stone wall facing the open water of the Atlantic Ocean. The drive toward the cliffs feels calm at first. Narrow country roads cut through open fields. Stone fences divide the land. Sheep stand quietly in the grass, barely reacting as cars pass by. It feels peaceful, almost ordinary. Nothing about the landscape prepares you for what waits ahead. Then, the wind begins to change. It grows stronger the closer you get to the coast. It pushes against the car when the road opens into wide, empty fields. When visitors step outside, the first thing they notice is that wind. It carries the smell of salt from the sea. Jackets begin to flap. Loose hair moves wildly in the air. From the parking area, a walking path leads across the grass. People move slowly along it, some talking, others already holding their phones. At this point, the cliffs are still hidden from view. All you hear is a distant sound somewhere below the land. It is the ocean, though you cannot see it yet. The path continues forward for a short distance, and then the moment arrives without warning. The land suddenly drops away, and the cliffs appear all at once. The first reaction is usually silence. The cliffs rise more than 200 meters above the crashing waves below. From where visitors stand, the height feels almost unreal. The rock face falls straight down into the restless water, and the ocean moves endlessly at the bottom, sending white waves crashing against the dark stone. What surprises most people is how far the cliffs stretch. They continue along the coastline for nearly 14 kilometers, fading slowly into the distance until the rock blends into the horizon. The view is so wide that it takes a moment for the eyes to adjust. People walk toward the railing carefully. Some step right to the edge and lean forward to look down. Others stop several steps away, feeling the height before moving any closer. There is always a quiet hesitation, even if no one says it out loud. Far below, the waves crash again and again against the base of the cliffs. The sound rises upward like distant thunder. It is loud, but it also feels strangely far away, as if the ocean belongs to another world far beneath your feet. Seabirds move constantly along the cliff face. They glide across the strong wind with almost no effort, their white wings cutting smoothly through the air. Sometimes they pass so close to the cliff that you can see every small movement as they turn and ride the air currents rising from the rock. Visitors often pause to watch them. Cameras come out for photographs. Some people try to capture the birds mid-flight, while others simply stand there and follow them with their eyes. The wind never stops moving here. It pushes across the cliffs in long, steady gusts, sometimes strong enough to make people step back slightly from the edge. Conversations become shorter because the wind carries voices away. At times, groups that arrive talking loudly fall quiet without realizing it. When the sky is clear, something else appears far out across the water. On the distant horizon, the dark shapes of the Aran Islands slowly come into view. They sit quietly in the ocean like distant shadows. Many visitors point them out to one another, trying to focus their eyes on the thin outline where the islands meet the sky. The entire scene can feel almost unreal. The height of the cliffs, the endless movement of the ocean, and the constant wind combine to create a landscape that feels powerful and untouched. Despite being one of the most famous natural landmarks in Europe, the cliffs still feel wild. There are no tall buildings around them, no city noise, no signs that the landscape has been tamed. The cliffs simply stand there, exactly as they have for centuries, facing the vast Atlantic. Visitors eventually begin walking back along the path the same way they came. Conversations slowly return. Phones come out again as people review the photos they just took. But many of them glance back one more time before leaving. Because the cliffs have a strange effect on people. They do not feel like a place that exists only for visitors. They feel older than that, stronger than that, almost indifferent to the attention they receive. And as the wind continues to move across the grass and the ocean keeps crashing against the rock far below, the cliffs remain exactly where they have always been, standing quietly at the edge of the world. Number 2. A road built for wonder. Ring of Kerry. In the southwest of Ireland, there is a journey that many travelers come looking for when they want to see the country's natural beauty in its fullest form. That journey is the famous Ring of Kerry. It is not a single destination. It is a circular road that loops through an entire region, passing through mountains, lakes, forests, and small coastal villages. People do not travel here to reach one specific place. They come for the experience of the road itself. The drive often begins quietly. The road curves through green countryside, where stone walls divide open fields. Sheep stand calmly on the hillsides, lifting their heads briefly as cars pass before returning to the grass. Small houses appear here and there, their white walls standing out against the deep green landscape. As the road continues, the scenery begins to change without warning. The land slowly rises into mountains that stretch across the horizon. They are not sharp or dramatic, like some mountain ranges. Instead, they appear wide and rugged, covered in layers of grass and rock that give the entire landscape a raw, natural feel. The road winds between these mountains, sometimes climbing slightly before dipping again into wide valleys. Drivers often slow down here, not because the road demands it, but because the view makes it difficult to keep moving at normal speed. Along the route, there are moments when something unexpected appears beside the road. A waterfall might be hidden between trees. In a quiet patch of forest, the water falls gently over dark stone, creating a soft sound that mixes with the wind moving through the leaves. Travelers sometimes stop their cars nearby and walk closer just to watch the water for a few minutes before continuing their journey. Further along the road, old stone ruins begin to appear on hills overlooking the valleys below. These structures stand silently in the landscape, their broken walls reminding visitors of the long history of this region. Grass grows through the spaces where rooms once stood, and the wind moves through the empty windows where people once lived their daily lives. The route also passes through small villages scattered across the countryside. Narrow streets wind between houses and small shops. A quiet pub may sit at the corner of a road, its door opening occasionally as locals step in or out. Life here moves at a slower pace, and travelers passing through often notice how calm everything feels compared to busy cities. Then the road begins to follow the coastline, and the Atlantic suddenly comes into view. The vast waters of the Atlantic Ocean stretch endlessly toward the horizon. Quiet beaches appear along the shore, where waves roll gently onto pale sand. Some visitors stop their cars and walk toward the water, standing for a moment as the wind carries the scent of the sea. What makes the journey along the Ring of Kerry feel special is how quickly the scenery can change. One moment the road is surrounded by rugged mountains, the next moment it opens beside a peaceful lake where the surface of the water reflects the sky like glass. The lakes are often still and quiet. Clouds drift across their surfaces, mirrored perfectly in the water below. Drivers slow down again here, sometimes pulling over just to take in the calm view before continuing the journey. As the circular road continues, each turn reveals another landscape, a new valley, another stretch of coastline, a different mountain rising from the distance. The journey never feels repetitive because every part of the route offers something slightly different from the last. By the time travelers complete the full circle, many realize that the road itself was the highlight of the experience. It is not simply a way to reach another destination. It is a journey that slowly reveals the natural beauty of Ireland piece by piece. And that is why the Ring of Kerry is often described as more than just a road. It is widely considered one of the most scenic drives in the world, a route where every turn invites you to stop, look around, and appreciate the quiet beauty of the landscape. Number 3. The Giant's Mystery. Giant's Causeway. Far to the north of Ireland lies a landscape that looks unlike almost anything else on Earth. This remarkable place is known as the Giant's Causeway. When visitors first arrive, the coastline appears calm and ordinary. The ocean stretches beside the land, and dark rocks line the shore where waves move steadily against the coast. Nothing immediately suggests that something unusual lies just ahead. But as people walk further along the path toward the water, the ground slowly begins to change. The smooth earth gives way to a strange formation of stone. Thousands of tall rock columns rise tightly together from the ground, forming what looks like an enormous natural staircase leading toward the sea. Up close, the pattern becomes even more surprising. The stones are shaped almost perfectly, many forming six-sided columns that fit together like pieces of a giant puzzle. There are more than 40,000 of these basalt columns, packed side by side across the shoreline. Visitors often stop the moment they see them clearly. The shapes seem too precise to be random, yet they cover the landscape in every direction. People step carefully from one column to another, moving across the stone surface as if they are walking on a path built long ago. The rocks form natural steps that rise and fall along the coast, creating the impression that someone deliberately arranged them. Scientists explain this unusual formation in a very direct way. According to geological studies, the columns were created by ancient volcanic activity. Long ago, molten lava cooled slowly and cracked into these repeating shapes, forming the strange patterns seen today. But the people of Ireland have told a very different story for centuries. In Irish legend, the causeway was built by a giant known as Fionn mac Cumhail. According to the tale, he constructed this massive stone pathway so he could cross the sea and challenge a rival giant who lived across the water in Scotland. When visitors stand on the stones and look out across the ocean, it is easy to understand why this legend continues to exist. The causeway stretches toward the water as if it once continued far beyond the shoreline. Some of the columns even disappear beneath the waves, giving the impression that the path might once have extended further across the sea. Whether someone believes the scientific explanation or prefers the ancient legend, the experience of standing on these stones feels unusual. The shapes seem too organized, too carefully arranged for something created purely by chance. Looking across the thousands of geometric columns, it almost feels as if nature experimented with design here, building something that resembles architecture rather than raw landscape. And as the waves continue to move gently between the stone formations and the wind carries the sound of the ocean along the coast, visitors often pause to take in the strange beauty of the place. Because landscapes like this do not appear often in the world. And the Giant's Causeway remains one of those rare places where the boundary between nature and imagination begins to feel surprisingly thin. Number 4. A Castle in the Mist. Blarney Castle, deep in the green countryside of Ireland, surrounded by trees and quiet fields, stands one of the country's most famous landmarks. The old stone structure of Blarney Castle rises slowly above the landscape, its towers visible through the surrounding forest long before visitors reach the entrance. The castle has been standing here for nearly 600 years. Built from heavy gray stone, it carries the strong presence of medieval architecture. Time has softened its edges, but the structure still feels powerful. Thick walls climb upward into tall towers, and the entire building looks as though it belongs to another century. The path leading toward the castle passes through wide gardens filled with trees and winding trails. Moss covers the ground in many places, and vines stretch across old stone surfaces that have stood in the same place for generations. The closer visitors walk toward the castle, the more the forest begins to close in around it. Then the structure reveals itself fully. Tall stone towers rise above the green landscape, their walls marked by centuries of wind and rain. Ivy and vines cling to parts of the stone, slowly spreading across the ancient surfaces. From a distance, the castle almost looks like something from a storybook, the kind of place where history and legend blend together. Visitors gather near the entrance before making their way inside. The interior stairways are narrow and steep, carved deep into the thick stone walls. One by one, people begin climbing the spiral steps that wind upward through the tower. The climb takes time, the staircases are tight, and visitors move carefully, stepping slowly as the stone walls curve around them. Small windows appear along the way, letting in thin beams of daylight and brief glimpses of the surrounding countryside far below. Eventually, the narrow steps lead to the top of the castle. This is where the castle's most famous feature waits, the legendary Blarney Stone. The stone is set into the wall near the very top of the structure. According to long-standing tradition, anyone who kisses the stone is said to receive a special gift, the ability to speak with charm and persuasion, often called the gift of eloquence. For centuries, this belief has drawn travelers from all over the world to this very spot. But the ritual itself is unusual. To kiss the stone, visitors must lean backward over the edge of the castle wall while holding onto metal bars for support. A staff member helps guide the movement, ensuring that each person can safely reach the stone. People often laugh nervously before leaning back. Some hesitate for a moment, staring upward at the sky as they position themselves over the edge. Then they lower themselves carefully until their head reaches the stone. The moment lasts only a few seconds. Afterward, they pull themselves back upright, often smiling as they step away from the edge. Some visitors treat it as a fun tradition. Others approach it with a surprising seriousness, as if the act carries a deeper meaning passed down through centuries. The legend has become so well known that even world leaders and famous celebrities have taken part in the ritual. Over the years, countless people from different countries have leaned over the same wall, reaching for the same stone. From the top of the castle, the view stretches far across the surrounding countryside. Thick green forests spread in every direction, broken occasionally by small fields and winding paths. The air feels cooler up here, and the wind moves steadily across the stone towers. After visiting the stone, people slowly make their way back down the spiral staircase. The narrow steps echo with quiet footsteps as each person descends through the same ancient passageways they climbed moments earlier. Outside again, the castle stands just as it always has, silent and steady above the trees. Its walls hold centuries of stories, traditions, and legends that continue to draw visitors from around the world. And somewhere near the top, the Blarney Stone remains in its place, waiting for the next traveler willing to lean back over the edge and take part in one of Ireland's most famous traditions. Number 5. The Valley of Silence. Glendalough. Hidden deep within the rolling landscape of the Wicklow Mountains, lies a valley that feels very different from the busy places many travelers visit. This quiet and peaceful location is known as Glendalough. The name Glendalough means Valley of Two Lakes, and the meaning becomes clear as soon as visitors enter the area. Two calm lakes sit within the valley, surrounded by forests and steep hills that rise on every side. The water reflects the sky above, and the mountains around the valley create a natural sense of shelter. The road into the valley winds through thick woodland before opening into the wide landscape where the lakes and ruins can be seen. The first thing many visitors notice is the quiet. Even when people are present, the valley carries a sense of stillness. The wind moves gently through the trees, and the sound of footsteps on gravel paths seems softer here than in most places. Glendalough is not only known for its natural beauty, it is also home to the remains of an ancient monastic settlement that was founded in the 6th century by the early Christian monk Saint Kevin. More than 1,000 years ago, monks built their community here within the valley, choosing the peaceful isolation of the mountains as the perfect place for reflection and prayer. Today, the stone ruins of that settlement remain scattered across the valley floor. Old churches stand quietly among the grass, their thick stone walls still strong despite the passing centuries. Windows carved into the rock open toward the surrounding landscape, framing views of the mountains and the lakes beyond. Near the center of the valley stands one of the most recognizable structures in Ireland, the tall Glendalough Round Tower. The tower rises high into the sky, built from carefully placed stone blocks. It has stood for more than 1,000 years, surviving storms, weather, and the steady passage of time. Visitors often stop for a moment when they first see it. The tower's height and simplicity give it a quiet strength that feels almost timeless. Walking through Glendalough feels less like visiting a typical tourist attraction and more like stepping into another era. Paths lead gently through the valley, passing beside old graveyards and ancient buildings that once formed part of the monastery. Moss grows across the stones, and grass fills the spaces between the ruins. The lakes sit peacefully nearby, their surfaces often still enough to reflect the surrounding mountains and trees. When the wind calms, the water becomes almost perfectly smooth, turning the entire valley into a mirror of sky and landscape. Some visitors walk the longer trails that lead around the lakes and into the surrounding forests. Others remain near the ruins, slowly exploring the stone buildings that have watched over the valley for centuries. No matter where someone walks in Glendalough, the feeling remains the same. The valley carries a sense of calm that is difficult to describe. It feels removed from the fast movement of the modern world, as if time itself moves more slowly between the mountains. And as the quiet lakes reflect the sky and the ancient tower continues to rise above the valley floor, Glendalough remains a place where history, nature, and silence exist together in a way that few landscapes still allow. Many people travel through places like these quickly. They take photos. They check locations off a list. Then they leave. But the real magic of Ireland is not found in rushing. It is found in slowing down, in standing quietly at the edge of a cliff while the wind moves across the ocean, in walking through an ancient ruin and imagining the lives that once filled those stone walls. Ireland rewards curiosity and patience. When you look at landscapes like these, something becomes clear. Nature and time create beauty that no modern city can replicate. The cliffs were shaped by millions of years. The castles survived centuries of history. The valleys have witnessed countless generations. And yet they remain, still powerful, still mysterious, still inspiring. If you enjoy exploring hidden beauty, ancient landscapes, and places that feel almost magical, consider subscribing to Moonlight Whisper. This channel is dedicated to quiet journeys across the world's most fascinating locations, places where history, nature, and mystery meet. And if you could visit one place in Ireland, which would it be? Let me know in the comments. There are places in the world that feel temporary, cities that change every decade, buildings that rise and disappear. But landscapes like those in Ireland remind us of something deeper. Some beauty does not rush. It endures, quietly, patiently, waiting for those who are willing to slow down and see it. And perhaps that is the real wonder of Ireland. Not just the places themselves, but the feeling they leave behind long after you have gone.